Atlanta, Orlando, Indianapolis, Houston, and now. Yeah. Black Ink Radio.
Welcome back to Pretty Real Podcast with your girl, Crystal Honey, Kiso, and Miss Mango Kush. And can't forget also Rich Mo with Black Ink Radio.
Let's get it.
Hey. On this topic is very, very, very touchy to a lot of people because I feel as though any situation when it comes to molestation, if a guest friend of mine, she was supposed to be on today's show, but unfortunately she did not make it today because her 3-year-old child explained to her and exposed to her that a friend of theirs had recently molested him and touched on him. So right now it's a lot that she's currently dealing with at the moment, which she couldn't make the show, and we're sending our prayers to your son, during this right now that's happening. Like it's a well-known thing that's going on today.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Castrate him.
Cut his dick off.
That's what it mean, Rich.
Okay.
I mean, one of our sassy audience members has a question.
He said his question is who did it.
Well, I guess he's a upcoming artist, and he goes by Rashad So Fly on Instagram, on social media.
Okay.
That's your friend.
That's Rashad So Fly.
Rashad.
I don't know him.
Lame-ass name.
I don't know.
Yes.
I just feel like if you did that, you deserve whatever's coming to you.
Period.
Yes.
I wasn't there, so I don't know, but that shit is just whack because these kids are innocent, and I feel like our world is the way it is right now because a lot of people get molested as kids. Mainly women. A lot of women women in our time have been molested at young, and it makes them be the way they are when they get a little older. So now this little boy's life is alternated for life. Like this is gonna affect him for life.
Especially for him being so young.
It's crazy.
At a young age, it's like his innocence is gone.
Yeah.
It's like
you have to talk to your kids.
A lot of kids will blame themselves for these things. Grow up and feel like it's their fault. I've seen a lot of people do that.
Excuse me, because I'm very triggered. I agreed to do this only because it's something that needs to be talked about more. But as a person, as a survivor, it's very hard for a child to understand. I was very confused. I didn't know who to tell. It was someone that my family trusted. And it was only when I started to get older that the person lost interest in me because and by older, I'm talking like 10, 11 years older, that the person lost interest, that it made me tell because they started to turn their interest elsewhere. And so when especially if you're a person that's experienced any type of abuse and you are amongst siblings, you automatically take on that you protecting your siblings, because something's happening that's hurting you and that's bad, and you don't want that to happen to them. And if I think back to my young self, because it started so young, the first thing I would say is pay attention to your kids' aversions. I was completely averted from the person. No one paid attention. They were just like, sit down and listen to so-and-so, and that's an adult, because I wouldn't listen to the person. I would cut up around the person, and nobody paid attention to the signs.
Nobody peeped the game.
Kids will tell you, because it's such an uncomfortable, weird thing. A child doesn't know how to come up and say something sexual is happening, because first of all, it's two things that are happening. There's the pain aspect if pain is involved, and then there's the part that feels good because they're still human. You're just awaking something in them too young. And so once you awake it, it's very confusing because you have a kid that is confused because this shit is wrong and hurts, but now it feels good.
That it feels good, yeah.
Yeah, so now they are dealing with other kids inappropriately because they've been exposed.
Putting other kids on.
Exactly, and it's no fault of their own, and it's a huge mismanagement amongst families because more often than not, like in my family, it's tons of abuse stories. It's like once I told my story, I felt like everybody came out just with hit me up secretly.
There's a few of
mine,
mine,
yeah, and we just don't talk about it because we don't want to go through the shame of it. It was very hard for me to be blunt. I lost a lot of family members and all that shit about being honest because when it happened to me, I was under the care of people that were church people, that was the pastor and all that shit. So, it can happen anywhere.
To anybody.
Yeah.
You know why I'm glad you said what you said, and I don't mean to cut you off, because my ex was had the same thing happen, but something you just said that a lot of, I hope whoever's listening and might be going through this right now can understand this part. Something you said that made so much sense. She got molested for so long, and she only told when she got too old, and they went for her younger sister.
Same thing.
And she felt like she had to tell now.
That's the same exact thing that
You
happened to
understand what I'm
me.
saying? She
That's
felt
like
like she
I
had
did,
to tell at that
and
point
so
to protect.
The fucked up part about that though is even when you do, you get shamed and victimized too. Like for me,
Like,
I told
them,
and they ended up being mad at me, and they
they was mad at her too.
Yeah, they didn't find out until adulthood. They blamed me. Like, oh, you know, it's nothing harder than being a survivor and having somebody tell you know better than the person who did that shit. You know what I'm saying? That's hard. And you know, you as a kid, I could not understand. And even
they try to say you fast.
Yes,
like
and you will be. You can't help it because first of all, it awakes everything.
And you don't know that it's totally wrong.
Yes, you don't.
So it's like, okay, this is what we doing. I don't like it. I think you shouldn't, but it's like you said, you start to accept it. Yeah. And I feel like she started to do it more so he wouldn't look at the sister. Mm-hmm. And then she figured when he kept looking at the sister, I gotta tell now.
That's so crazy. I've never heard anybody that had an identical story.
Her story was when you
That's
said
crazy.
it, I'm sitting here like
I gotta send you my story so you can actually share it with her because it's printed. But I say that to say this: you have to listen. Like the things I think about now that I counsel people and help people, no one paid attention to the signs. I definitely had aversions. I definitely was acting out. I went through all of elementary school with people thinking that I couldn't speak or none of that because I was in pain all the time. So I didn't know how to relate that. So I was like going through school, failing, needing special help and all that simply because I was being hurt and didn't know how to tell. It wasn't until it stopped. And then I got into another school, and I went through all of my education thinking something wrong with me because you have to understand if I'm quiet and all my teachers telling me I don't do shit in class, boo, boo, boo. It wasn't until I got into junior high school that this lady related to me, and I know now that I'm an adult and I find those same girls that are survivors, she was a survivor, and she recognized that into me. Yeah. Yes, because she would constantly speak life into me. And all of a sudden I was passing midterms and scoring the highest on my exams without attending class. So I went through years of school thinking I was a dummy because I was being abused to a teacher who clearly was a survivor seeing that in me and inspiring me like, you read better than everybody else. And then I produced genius kids. My daughter's 10 years old in 7th grade. And I went through all the school thinking I was a fucking idiot. You know what I'm saying? So listen to the kids.
Yeah, it definitely does a lot to you mentally wise, you know, speaking of a victim as well, you know, of over 10 plus years of child molestation and abuse. You know, you feel like it's your fault. You know, you just, at the end of the day, it's like, you know, it's a lot of spirits and a lot of energy that surrounds you and just plays with your mind. And like she stated, you don't know whether it's right or wrong, you know, because you're caught up in the middle of, damn, it feels so good, but then when I know it's wrong. And then 9 times out of 10, when you do reach out to your family and tell them about it, they don't believe you.
Yep.
They say you're lying. That's the famous thing.
That's the hardest shit.
You're lying. You're a liar.
Yeah.
But my thing is, it's like, how would a 5-year-old or a 3-year-old
even think
lie
of these things
and make up these things? You know what I mean? They only say and do what has been done to them or what they've seen has been done. So it's like, how can I, at the age of 7, make up a lie about a man, you know what I mean, doing things to me that he should never do? And for a parent to say you're lying it definitely is, you know, it's detrimental to a child, especially. It's like, who can I trust? Who can I turn to? Because the person who's supposed to protect me is not protecting me. So it's like, as to say that, it's like there's a lot of enablers, a lot of people is enabling these abuse, these type of demons. And it's like now you have this world filled with all these sexual abuse, and you know, it's passing down from a kid is doing it to another kid, and then that kid is doing it to another kid, and it's just like, where do we end it?
And it's sad because, you know, even with what you saying now, it's like the situation was similar where, you know, these kids are crying out to people and people are not, like, receptive of it. You know, like, I know so many women, because I speak to women and I listen to them and talk. I know another girl who was being molested by her stepfather, and basically when she told her mother, they blamed her and kicked her out. She was still in high school. So she went to her counselor and told her counselor she was homeless. you know, because she was sleeping with dudes for a while and, you know, to stay somewhere. But she was in high school. So after a while, she wanted out of that. So she told her counselor. You know what her counselor did? Her counselor allowed her to come stay in her house, but then started making her have threesomes with her and her husband.
Oh, wow.
Like this is the trauma. And this is real. This is a real story. Like this is the trauma. Like who do you trust? Because they looking at you like you fast, or they're blaming the victim, and looking at the victim like you want this, and the person is crying out to you.
And not understanding this is what you're instilling in the victim. This is what you're teaching.
Making them think it's right.
Exactly. So it's like now they're turning around doing the same thing to someone else, and it's no one is there to teach them what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah, it's sick, man. We live in a sick world, and sometimes I'm gonna be honest. Sometimes I wonder because, you know, America has its rules, right? Regulations on age, but then there's other countries where it's okay to do these things to young kids, you know, and those countries are older than America. So sometimes my question is, you know, is this? I don't know. Is this like a human trait? Because I don't have it. I don't look at kids and feel that way. I like grown women. But it got to be something sick or something in these people's brain to be attracted to these kids. And that shit is either sick or I don't know. I think something's wrong, or I don't know. Like
a lot of it is hereditary. That's what
I'm saying, because some of these people are from these countries where it's okay.
I mean,
wait, what countries is it okay?
What do you mean? India?
What?
No.
Oh, like child marriage?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Child marriage
They
is
give their daughters away.
Yeah, that's super
13,
prominent. Though they don't
12.
they actually get given away around like 6 or 7.
Yeah, that's what I'm
saying. They
saying.
don't get married till they're like 13.
But
till their first menstrual cycle.
Yeah, but you know them niggas is doing shit early.
But that's crazy. Like, you know your future wife is 5 or 6 or 7 years old. Like, really? And you waiting for her to get her.
And how fucking old are you if you taking care of 6-year-old?
So usually the boys are just as young. I'm serious. Like they arrange them like as kids, like when they're like born. Like that's your husband when you're old enough.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
But I'm saying it's
you
also
mean like the old men buying child.
It's also old men that's like,
that's actually real common in Europe.
I want your daughter, and she's only like 7 or 8, and I pay you a big amount, and she's mine now until she's of age.
Europe, Romania, I was watching a documentary, still has that issue. There's I think it was Uzbekistan. They do kidnappings, so they pick a girl they like. If she has to be at least like 13, they kidnap her. They're crying, screaming. They come to the in-laws' house. The mother-in-law is trying to get them. They get married that day. They get kidnapped. They get them ready. I think it's Uzbekistan. It was like in Europe. It was a documentary, but they kind of had like.
Was it Vice?
It was Vice.
I watched it. I saw it. And the little girl, they got her away, and then she's the one who ended up doing the document. And then she went and found her father. Yes. And her father was apologetic and all that. I saw
there was one that killed herself. I think it's Kyrgyzstan. I don't know. It's over there around Russia.
We really need to do better as a people. Need to, like, sad. You know, they don't understand how you damaging individuals with this stuff. Like, it's damaging.
It's very damaging.
It's
to be an adult and to have had those experiences, it does. Yeah, because sex will become numb for you after a while. Like, for me, I have to truly be engaged with the person. Otherwise, it's, you have to learn how to survive past that and practice having a natural sex life. And it's very hard because there's two things people do. People ignore everything that happened to them, and they don't realize sexually they act out because they try to pretend they can have a natural, healthy sex life. Then the people who get the help understand that they have to approach sex differently. Like, it's actually a process. Like, you have to mentally make the decision, I'm fucking now. And this is okay. This is a safe space to do that. Like, there's a lot of people who have, and I see them in my support group all the time, who have been tremendously impacted by it. And then when you have the adult survivors, especially women that are dating. See, I love you for that, Rich, and it makes sense why we connect that way. A lot of women who are survivors are scared to tell they dude that they dating, that they survivors. Yeah. Because they are afraid of the shame of you not wanting them either. You feeling like they used up too. So, when I'll be
open to listen. That's why a lot of them talk to me.
I love that you do that. I love that you do that. Because it's healing.
Yeah,
it's
healing.
Help.
It does help.
It's very healing, and it's a connection with you that'll be different forever. Even if y'all split up, it'll be different. You know what I'm saying? So it's major that if you do know a person that's a survivor, Respect their space, and if they are open enough to share their story with you, please don't be opinionated about what you shoulda and what you woulda did, because that doesn't really help anything.
Just
If a
listen.
person's trusting you enough to relate that to you, listen to them. If you see a kid and I'm telling you right now, the feeling that happens when a child is being hurt, or you sense that it's an evil that you will feel. And when you feel it, don't ignore it. Like if you see a person around a child and something just bother your spirit, and maybe you're not even a spiritual person, but you feel that aura, say something. It is the most devastating shit to be a helpless child and to be taken advantage of and feel like no one's going to come and help you. I was a very young girl, and to this day, I can't deal with fucking basements. I can't use bar soap. I can't sit with my back to no door. I'm always strapped. Like, you know, I can't be, it's crazy. A lot of shit happened. I didn't even know why. Like, people used to wake me up out my sleep and I would jump and go crazy, right? And they teased me my whole life, my whole family. Like, oh, you can't wake her up. Yeah, nobody realized why.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, somebody's waking me up for the wrong reason.
Facts.
But I will say this one thing. I feel like people need to pay a lot of attention to children that we call fast. Someone taught them that.
Say that.
You need to talk to them and see who taught them that.
Say that.
Because that's something that you might find something in there. Don't just look at them like they fast because they doing things. They doing things because somebody's doing something to them.
Say that.
There's no other way to figure this shit out.
Say that. Yeah. And fathers, and Rich, I'm so happy that you have a daughter and you involved. It's important because let me just say this, dads, when you're involved and you set the tone for how a man handles a woman, your daughter will immediately know when somebody's touching her wrong.
Exactly.
Right.
That's why when I was young, my father used to hurt my feelings because when I got to like 6 or 7, he wouldn't let me sit in his lap, and I didn't understand that. And my father's an old preacher, and I didn't get it. He was like, no, you sit next to me. And as I got older, he told me, he said, if I let you sit in my lap and Uncle Tommy say, oh, come here, and he talked just like me and say your dress is pretty, just like Daddy, you sit in his lap. And Uncle Tommy don't have the same intentions as me. And so it hurt my feelings for a long time. I ended up getting hurt, unfortunately. But now that I'm older and I teach my child the same thing, I get it. Because the person that hurt me, I trusted them. You know, I didn't realize anything was inappropriate because I was taught to trust, you know, and obey.
Protect our kids, man.
Big time.
If your kid is telling you something, you listen.
I love Richie differently now, Richie. You make me love you differently.
Do not believe
I love you too.
the op. Believe the victim.
Yeah.
And let's protect our children, man. You know, we're going to close out on that note. Protect our children.
And now y'all see I'm really crazy. That's why I've been digging in my bag, because I'm triggered. This is what crazy people do. Y'all know I'm taking medicine.
Yeah, definitely. Please, people, you know, pay attention to your kids and believe what they tell you to a certain extent. Do your research and just make sure that you protect them from anybody. It could be anybody. Don't give nobody the benefit of the doubt. It could be your brother, your sister, your cousin. It could be anybody. All right?
Richie, I love
Don't be touching on these little babies.
No.
Now.
125th, Brooklyn, Atlanta, Orlando, Indianapolis, Houston, and now.